In the heart of Washington, D.C., where politics and media collide on a daily basis, an event was unfolding that would soon capture the attention of many. It was a crisp morning, and the air buzzed with anticipation as reporters gathered outside, a grand hall. They were there to cover a high-profile press conference hosted by the Trump family. Among the attendees was Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump. Known for his quiet and reserved nature, Barron rarely stepped into the public eye. But today felt different. He seemed ready to take a small step forward. The room was filled with journalists, their pens poised and cameras rolling. Some were seasoned reporters who had covered countless political events, while others were newcomers eager to make their mark. Among them stood Sarah Collins, a well-known journalist with years of experience under her belt. She had built a reputation for her sharp wit and ability to ask tough questions. Her colleagues often joked that she could find humor in even the most serious situations. Little did anyone know, this skill of hers would soon become the center of attention. As the event began, the Trump family took their places at the front of the room. Barron stood slightly behind his parents, observing everything with a calm demeanor. His presence caught the curiosity of several reporters, who whispered among themselves about how grown-up he looked. Despite his height and composed stance, Barron still carried the innocence of a teenager. When the floor opened for questions, reporters eagerly raised their hands, hoping to get their chance to speak. The atmosphere was electric, with everyone vying for the spotlight. Sarah Collins was one of the first to be called upon. She stepped forward confidently, her microphone in hand, and directed her question toward Barron. "Barron," she began, smiling warmly, "what are your thoughts on the recent initiative your father's administration has launched? Do you think it will have a positive impact?" Her tone was casual, almost conversational, but her eyes sparkled with curiosity. For a moment, the room fell silent as all eyes turned to Barron. This was not just another question. It was a rare opportunity to hear directly from someone who usually stayed out of the limelight. Barron hesitated for a brief second, his expression thoughtful. He wasn't used to speaking in front of large crowds, let alone answering questions from seasoned journalists. But instead of shying away, he decided to give it his best shot. Clearing his throat softly, he replied, "I think it's a good idea because it helps people. My dad always talks about making things better, so I hope it works." His voice was steady, though tinged with the nervousness of someone stepping out of their comfort zone. To those listening, his words sounded genuine, a mix of youthful optimism and personal reflection. However, just as Barron finished his sentence, something unexpected happened. Sarah let out a light chuckle, her lips curling into a faint smile. At first, it seemed like an involuntary reaction, perhaps born out of the contrast between Barron's straightforward answer and the complexity of the topic. But the sound echoed through the room, breaking the otherwise serious mood. Barron stopped mid-thought, his eyes widening slightly as he processed what had just occurred. The other reporters exchanged glances, unsure of how to react. Was this a moment of levity or something more? For Barron, the laughter felt jarring. He hadn't expected such a response, especially not in front of so many people. Though he tried to maintain his composure, the impact of the moment lingered. Sarah quickly realized her reaction might have been misinterpreted. She glanced around the room, sensing the shift in energy. What had started as a routine question-and-answer session now teetered on the edge of becoming something else entirely. The next few moments would determine whether this incident would fade away or leave a lasting impression. Despite the tension in the air, Barron didn't retreat. Instead, he chose to address the situation head-on. With a calmness that surprised even himself, he asked, "Why did you laugh?" His question hung in the air, simple yet powerful. Sarah froze for a split second, caught off guard by his directness. She hadn't anticipated being called out, especially not by someone so young. Fumbling for words, she attempted to explain herself, saying, "Oh, it's nothing really, just, sometimes things come out funny." Her voice trailed off as she noticed the seriousness in Barron's gaze. The room grew quieter, the weight of the moment settling over everyone present. Barron's question had shifted the focus entirely. It wasn't just about the original topic anymore. It was about respect, understanding, and the way people interact with one another. Sarah, realizing the gravity of the situation, took a deep breath. She knew she needed to handle this carefully. Apologizing sincerely, she said, "I'm sorry if my reaction came across as dismissive. That wasn't my intention." Her words were heartfelt, and Barron nodded, accepting her apology graciously. This exchange marked a turning point in the event. What could have been an awkward or even confrontational moment transformed into something meaningful. Barron's poise and maturity impressed everyone in the room, including Sarah herself. The reporters, who had initially been focused on getting quotes for their articles, found themselves reflecting on the deeper implications of what had just transpired. It was a reminder that even in high-pressure environments, empathy and accountability matter. As the press conference continued, Barron returned to standing quietly beside his family. But his brief interaction with Sarah remained fresh in everyone's minds. Reporters whispered amongst themselves, discussing how gracefully he had handled the situation. Some admired his courage, while others noted the importance of treating every individual, regardless of age or background, with dignity. For Barron, however, the focus remained on fostering mutual understanding rather than seeking validation. Outside the hall, news of the incident began spreading quickly. Social media platforms lit up with reactions from people who had watched the live stream or read early reports. Many praised Barron for his calm demeanor and thoughtful response, while others highlighted the lesson in accountability demonstrated by both him and Sarah. The story resonated with audiences worldwide, sparking discussions about communication, respect, and the power dynamics at play in public settings. Though Barron eventually retreated back to his private life, the ripple effects of that day continued to grow. Sarah later wrote a reflective piece about the encounter, emphasizing the need for self-awareness and empathy in journalism. Her article served as both an apology and a call to action for others in her field. Meanwhile, Barron's actions inspired conversations far beyond the political sphere. Teachers used the story in classrooms to discuss the importance of standing up for oneself, while workplaces referenced it during team-building exercises. In the end, what started as a seemingly trivial moment turned into a powerful narrative about human connection. Barron Trump may have been thrust into the spotlight unintentionally, but his response proved that even the smallest acts of courage can leave a lasting impact. The world moved on, as it always does, but the memory of that day remained, a testament to the enduring power of grace under pressure. The moment Barron Trump asked Sarah Collins, "Why did you laugh?" the room seemed to freeze. His voice was calm but firm, and his eyes locked onto hers with a quiet intensity that belied his age. For Sarah, the question felt like a spotlight had been turned directly on her. She wasn't used to being challenged in such a straightforward way, especially not by someone so young. Her initial chuckle, which had seemed harmless at first, now hung heavy in the air, creating an awkward tension that everyone could feel. Sarah hesitated for a second, her mind racing to find the right words. She knew she couldn't ignore the question or brush it aside. It was too important and too many people were watching. Taking a deep breath, she said softly, "I didn't mean anything by it, Barron. Sometimes things just sound funny, you." "No, I wasn't laughing at you personally." Her tone was apologetic, but Barron didn't let the matter drop. Instead, he responded with a maturity that left the entire room stunned. "It's okay if something sounds funny," Barron replied, his voice steady. "But laughing when someone is answering a question can make them feel like what they're saying doesn't matter, and that's not fair." His words were simple, yet they carried a weight that resonated deeply with everyone present. Sarah blinked, clearly taken aback by his insight. It was as though Barron had cut through all the noise of the event and gotten straight to the heart of the issue. Respect. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The reporters who had been scribbling notes furiously paused, their pens hovering over their notebooks. Camera operators lowered their equipment slightly, unsure whether to continue filming. Even the Trump family members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of surprise and pride. Barron stood there, still composed, waiting for Sarah's response. He wasn't angry or defensive, just honest and direct. And in that honesty lay a lesson that would stay with everyone long after the press conference ended. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sarah decided to take full responsibility for her actions. She stepped closer to Barron, holding her microphone tightly in both hands. "You're absolutely right, Barron," she said, her voice sincere. "I'm truly sorry if my reaction made you feel dismissed. That wasn't my intention, and I'll be more mindful moving forward." Her apology was heartfelt, and Barron nodded slowly, accepting it without hesitation. "Thank you," he said simply, before stepping back into his place beside his parents. The shift in the atmosphere was palpable. What had started as a potentially embarrassing moment transformed into something much bigger, an opportunity for reflection and growth. Reporters who had initially been focused on getting sensational quotes began discussing the interaction among themselves. Some praised Barron for his poise under pressure, while others admired Sarah for owning up to her mistake. The incident reminded everyone in the room of the importance of treating others with dignity, regardless of their age or position. Outside the hall, news of the exchange spread quickly. Social media platforms lit up with reactions from people who had watched the live stream or read early reports. Many applauded Barron for standing up for himself in such a mature way, while others commended Sarah for apologizing sincerely. The entire story resonated with audiences worldwide, sparking discussions about communication, respect, and the power dynamics at play in public settings. Parents shared the clip with their children, using it as a teaching moment about speaking up and staying calm in difficult situations. As the day went on, the narrative around Barron and Sarah's interaction continued to evolve. Journalists who hadn't attended the event reached out to those who had, eager to get first-hand accounts of what had happened. Some framed it as a lesson in accountability, highlighting how both parties handled the situation with grace. Others focused on Barron's unexpected eloquence, noting how his words had struck a chord with people across generations. By evening, the story had become one of the top trending topics online. Back at the venue, the press conference resumed, though the mood had shifted noticeably. Questions that followed were asked with greater thoughtfulness, and answers were given with more care. Barron remained mostly silent for the rest of the event, occasionally nodding or smiling as his parents addressed the crowd. But his brief exchange with Sarah lingered in the minds of everyone present. It served as a reminder that even in high-pressure environments, moments of humanity can shine through, and sometimes those moments leave the most lasting impact. Later, that night, Sarah sat down at her desk to write a reflective piece about the encounter. She wanted to capture not only what had happened, but also the lessons she had learned from it. As she typed, her thoughts flowed freely, recalling how Barron's question had forced her to confront her own biases and assumptions. In journalism, we often focus on asking tough questions and finding angles that grab attention, she wrote. But this experience reminded me that our actions, no matter how small, can have a profound effect on those we interact with. Sarah's article went viral within hours of its publication. Readers praised her for her honesty and willingness to admit fault. Many commented that her reflections added depth to the story, turning it into a broader conversation about empathy and self-awareness. Meanwhile, Barron returned to his private life, avoiding the spotlight as he usually did. Yet his actions during the press conference had already made waves far beyond what anyone could have predicted. Teachers began incorporating the story into their lesson plans, using it to discuss themes like courage, respect, and effective communication. In workplaces, managers referenced the interaction during team meetings, encouraging employees to think critically about how they treat their colleagues. Even late-night talk show hosts joked about the incident, albeit kindly, acknowledging the wisdom Barron had shown despite his youth. It was clear that the story had touched a nerve, resonating with people from all walks of life. Though Barron himself didn't seek recognition for his role in the event, his actions inspired countless others to reflect on their own behavior. Social media posts poured in, with users sharing stories of times they had faced similar challenges and how they had handled them, or wished they had handled them, differently. Some thanked Barron for setting an example of calmness and maturity, while others expressed gratitude toward Sarah for modeling accountability. Together, their exchange became a catalyst for meaningful conversations about kindness and understanding. In the days that followed, the story took on a life of its own. News outlets revisited the incident, analyzing its significance and exploring the lessons it offered. Commentators debated whether moments like these could lead to lasting change in how public figures are treated by the media. Others wondered if Barron's response signaled a new generation of leaders, one that prioritizes empathy and authenticity over bravado and ego. Whatever the case, it was undeniable that the encounter had sparked something powerful. For Sarah, the experience marked a turning point in her career. She vowed to approach every interview with greater sensitivity, recognizing that even light-hearted moments could carry unintended consequences. For Barron, it was simply another step in navigating life under the public eye, a reminder that even the smallest actions can ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. And for everyone else, it was a story worth remembering, a testament to the enduring power of grace, humility, and human connection. The days following the press conference brought a whirlwind of reactions from people around the world. Social media platforms buzzed with posts about Barron Trump's calm response and Sarah Collins's sincere apology. People couldn't stop talking about how such a simple moment had turned into something so meaningful. Some praised Barron for his maturity, while others admired Sarah for owning up to her mistake. It was as if the interaction had tapped into a universal desire for kindness and understanding in an increasingly divided world. Teachers were among the first to seize on the story as a teaching tool. In classrooms across the country, educators used Barron's exchange with Sarah to spark discussions about respect and communication. "What would you do if someone laughed at your answer?" one teacher asked her students during a morning lesson. Hands shot up eagerly, and the room filled with lively debate. Some kids said they'd feel hurt or embarrassed, while others insisted they'd speak up just like Barron did. The teacher nodded along, encouraging them to think critically about how their words and actions affect others. By the end of the class, even the shyest students seemed inspired to stand up for themselves. Workplaces weren't far behind in embracing the story either. Managers held meetings to discuss empathy and accountability, using Barron and Sarah's interaction as a real-life example. At one company, a team leader stood before his employees and said, "Imagine if we all took a moment to reflect before reacting, just like Sarah did after Barron called her out. How much better could our workplace be?" His words resonated deeply, prompting several colleagues to share personal stories of misunderstandings and how they wished they'd handled them differently. The session ended with a renewed commitment to treating each other with more care and thoughtfulness. Meanwhile, late-night talk show hosts found humor in the situation without losing sight of its deeper message. One host joked, "Barron Trump just schooled us all on handling awkward moments. Next time someone laughs at me, I'm channeling my inner Barron." The audience erupted in laughter, but the host quickly added, "Seriously though, that kid showed a lot of grace under pressure. We could all learn something from him." Clips of these segments circulated widely online, further amplifying the reach of the story. Even those who didn't follow politics closely found themselves drawn to the narrative because of its universal themes. For Sarah Collins, the aftermath of the incident became a period of self-reflection. She spent hours thinking about her initial reaction and why she had laughed in the first place. Was it nerves, a subconscious bias, or simply a habit formed over years of working in high-stakes environments? Whatever the reason, she knew she couldn't let it happen again. Determined to grow from the experience, Sarah began incorporating mindfulness practices into her daily routine. She started meditating for 10 minutes every morning, focusing on being fully present during interviews, and reminding herself to listen more than she spoke. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. Colleagues remarked on how much calmer and more thoughtful Sarah seemed in her reporting. During one particularly tense interview, a guest snapped at her for asking a tough question. Instead of firing back defensively, Sarah paused, smiled warmly, and said, "I hear you and I appreciate your perspective. Let's keep the conversation going." Her measured response diffused the tension instantly, earning her praise from viewers and peers alike. It was clear that Barron's words had left a lasting impression on her, shaping not only her professional approach but also her personal growth. As for Barron, life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be for the youngest son of a former U.S. president. He retreated from the public eye, preferring the quiet comfort of his routines over the glare of media attention. But despite his low profile, the impact of his actions continued to ripple outward. Friends and acquaintances shared stories of seeing glimpses of Barron's maturity in everyday interactions. One classmate recalled how he once helped mediate a disagreement between two friends, saying, "He has this way of making everyone feel heard, like what they're saying actually matters." The story also sparked conversations about the role of young people in shaping societal values. Many noted how Barron's response challenged stereotypes about teenagers being disengaged or self-centered. If a 14-year-old can handle himself with such poise in front of hundreds of reporters, imagine what else young people are capable of, wrote one columnist in a widely read opinion piece. The article went on to highlight examples of youth activism and leadership, tying Barron's moment of courage to a broader movement of young voices demanding change. Parents, too, found inspiration in the story. Online parenting forums lit up, with discussions about raising empathetic and confident children. One mother posted, "Barron reminded me that kids notice everything, even things we don't think they're paying attention to. If we want them to grow into compassionate adults, we need to model that behavior ourselves." Another parent chimed in, sharing how she had started having open conversations with her own children about standing up for themselves and others. These exchanges reflected a collective yearning to nurture the next generation with the same qualities Barron had displayed. Even celebrities weighed in on the incident. Actress Emma Watson tweeted, "Grace isn't about never making mistakes. It's about owning them when you do." Big respect to Barron Trump and Sarah Collins for showing us what that looks like. Her tweet garnered thousands of likes and retweets, further fueling the global conversation. Other public figures followed suit, adding their perspectives on the importance of humility and mutual respect. The story transcended political affiliations, uniting people through shared values rather than divisive opinions. Back in Washington, D.C., journalists gathered at a networking event to discuss the evolving landscape of media ethics. The topic of Barron and Sarah's interaction came up repeatedly, with many agreeing that it underscored the need for greater sensitivity in reporting. "We have a responsibility to treat every person we interview with dignity," said one veteran reporter during a panel discussion. This incident serves as a powerful reminder of that. Attendees nodded in agreement, vowing to carry the lesson forward in their work. For those who had witnessed the press conference firsthand, the memory remained vivid. Reporters who had been present recounted the moment to colleagues who hadn't attended, describing how Barron's composure had silenced the room. "You could feel the shift in energy," one journalist recalled. "It was like everyone suddenly realized that this wasn't just another press event. It was a human moment." Others echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing how rare it was to see such authenticity in a highly curated environment. As weeks turned into months, the story gradually faded from headlines, but its influence endured. Schools continued to use it as a case study in character education. Workplaces integrated its lessons into training programs, and families revisited it during dinner table conversations. For many, it became a touchstone, a reminder of the power of vulnerability and the importance of treating others with kindness. Though Barron Trump may not have intended to spark such widespread reflection, his actions proved that even the smallest gestures can leave a profound impact. In a world often dominated by noise and division, his brief exchange with Sarah Collins offered a glimpse of what's possible when we choose empathy over judgment, understanding over indifference. And perhaps that was the greatest gift of all, a story that reminded humanity of its capacity for connection, even in the most unexpected places. As the months passed, the story of Barron Trump and Sarah Collins continued to inspire people in ways no one could have predicted. What had started as a fleeting moment at a press conference grew into a symbol of hope for many who felt disconnected or overlooked in their own lives. People from all walks of life found meaning in the interaction, using it as a lens through which they examined their relationships, workplaces, and communities. It was as if Barron's calm response and Sarah's sincere apology had opened a door to conversations that had long been waiting to happen. In schools, the ripple effects were especially noticeable. Teachers reported seeing changes in how students interacted with one another after discussing the incident. One middle school teacher shared a story about two students who had been arguing over a group project. Frustrated and unwilling to compromise, they came close to walking away from the assignment altogether. But then one of them said, "Remember what Barron did? He didn't get mad. He just asked why. Maybe we should try that." The other student nodded, and together they worked through their differences, finishing the project with newfound respect for each other. Stories like these became common, showing how even small lessons could lead to big transformations. Parents also noticed shifts in their children's behavior. A mother wrote online about her son, who had always struggled with standing up for himself. After hearing about Barron's response, he decided to speak up when a classmate teased him during recess. Instead of reacting angrily, he calmly asked, "Why are you saying that?" The bully, caught off guard, stammered an apology and walked away. The boy later told his mom, "I felt brave, like I wasn't alone anymore." For countless kids, Barron's example provided a blueprint for handling difficult situations with grace and confidence. At work, the story inspired leaders to rethink how they approached conflict resolution. Managers began holding workshops on active listening and emotional intelligence, encouraging employees to reflect on their own reactions before responding to others. In one office, a team leader recounted how she used the lesson herself during a heated meeting. When a colleague interrupted her mid-sentence with a dismissive comment, she paused and said, "I understand you might not agree with me, but I'd appreciate it if we could talk this through respectfully." The room fell silent, and the colleague apologized, admitting he hadn't realized how his words sounded. Moments like these demonstrated how powerful simple acts of self-awareness could be. For Sarah Collins, the experience fundamentally changed the way she approached her career. She made a conscious effort to slow down during interviews, ensuring she truly listened to her subjects instead of rushing to fill silences or crack jokes. Her colleagues noticed the difference immediately. "Sarah seems more present now," one coworker remarked. "It's like she's really trying to connect with people rather than just getting the story." This shift earned her praise not only from her peers but also from those she interviewed. Many guests commented on how comfortable she made them feel, thanking her for creating a space where they could express themselves freely. Sarah's transformation extended beyond her professional life. She started volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring teenagers interested in journalism. During one session, a girl hesitantly raised her hand and asked, "What do you do when someone laughs at your idea?" Without missing a beat, Sarah replied, "You ask them why they laughed and then listen to their answer. Sometimes people don't even realize how their actions affect others." The girl smiled, clearly reassured by the advice. For Sarah, these moments reaffirmed her belief in the importance of fostering understanding and empathy, both in her personal and professional worlds. Meanwhile, Barron Trump remained largely out of the public eye, quietly continuing his education and hobbies. Friends described him as thoughtful and kind, qualities that seemed to shine brighter since the press conference. Though he avoided interviews or public statements about the incident, those close to him noted how proud he was of the positive impact it had created. His family occasionally mentioned the story in passing, expressing gratitude for the way people had responded to it. They saw it as proof that even in challenging circumstances, kindness and honesty could prevail. The media world itself underwent subtle but significant changes because of the story. Journalists began reflecting more deeply on the ethics of their craft, asking themselves hard questions about bias, fairness, and accountability. Panels and conferences dedicated to improving journalistic practices sprang up across the country, with speakers often referencing Barron and Sarah's exchange as a turning point. "This isn't just about one moment," said a prominent news anchor during a keynote speech. "It's about recognizing our responsibility to treat every person whether they're a politician, a celebrity, or a teenager, with dignity. Even late-night comedians kept revisiting the story, finding new angles to explore while maintaining its core message. One host joked, "If Barron can handle awkward moments better than most adults, maybe we should let him take over the world." For a day. But beneath the humor lay genuine admiration for his poise and maturity. Clips of these segments introduced the story to new audiences, keeping the conversation alive long after the initial buzz had faded. Social media played a crucial role in sustaining interest in the narrative. Hashtags like #BeLikeBarron and #Listen and Learn trended sporadically, with users sharing stories of how they applied the lessons from the incident in their own lives. One woman posted about apologizing to her neighbor after years of unresolved tension. "I thought about what Sarah did, how she owned her mistake, and realized I needed to do the same," she wrote. Another user shared how he stood up to a boss who had belittled him, channeling Barron's courage to ask, "Why did you say that?" These posts created a sense of community, reminding people that they weren't alone in striving to be better. Books and articles analyzing the story began appearing, offering deeper insights into its cultural significance. One author wrote, "Barron, Trump's response wasn't just remarkable because of his age. It was remarkable because it reminded us of something we already knew, that respect is the foundation of human connection." And Sarah Collins's apology showed us that growth is possible when we're willing to acknowledge our flaws. Readers devoured these pieces, eager to understand why the story resonated so deeply. Perhaps most importantly, the incident sparked a broader movement toward empathy and accountability. Nonprofit organizations incorporated its themes into campaigns promoting kindness and inclusion. Businesses adopted policies aimed at fostering respectful communication among employees. Families sat down together to discuss how they could support each other in standing up for what's right. All of this stemmed from a single moment, a laugh, a question, and an apology that refused to be forgotten. Though time moved forward and new headlines captured the world's attention, the legacy of Barron and Sarah's interaction endured. It served as a reminder that even in a fast-paced, often chaotic world, moments of humanity could break through and remind us of what truly matters. For everyone touched by the story, it became a guiding light, a testament to the power of courage, humility, and understanding in bridging divides and building connections. And in doing so, it left an indelible mark on hearts and minds around the globe. As the story of Barron Trump and Sarah Collins continued to spread, its influence reached places no one could have imagined. From small towns to bustling cities, people found ways to incorporate its lessons into their daily lives. The narrative became more than just a memory. It evolved into a movement inspiring individuals and communities to prioritize empathy and accountability in everything they did. What had begun as a single moment of grace now seemed like the starting point for something much larger. In rural areas, where access to resources was often limited, teachers used the story to foster a sense of unity among students. One educator, in a small Midwest town, shared how she introduced the incident during a classroom discussion about bullying. "We talked about how laughing at someone's answer, whether it's in class or on social media, can hurt them," she explained. "Then we brainstormed ways to make our school a kinder place. The students came up with ideas like creating a kindness wall, where they could leave notes for each other, and organizing peer mentoring groups. By the end of the semester, the school saw a noticeable drop in conflicts, thanks in part to these initiatives inspired by Barron's example. Community leaders also embraced the story, using it to strengthen bonds within neighborhoods. In a tight-knit suburb, a local pastor referenced the interaction during a Sunday sermon. Barron didn't shy away from speaking his truth, even when it felt uncomfortable, he said. And Sarah showed us that admitting our mistakes is a sign of strength, not weakness. Let's take those lessons into our own lives. His words resonated deeply with congregants, sparking conversations about how to build trust and understanding in their community. Soon after, residents organized a series of workshops on conflict resolution and active listening, drawing inspiration from the story's core themes. Even businesses outside the United States took note of the incident, adapting its lessons to fit their cultural contexts. In Japan, a tech company implemented a new policy called the Barron Principle, which encouraged employees to address misunderstandings directly rather than letting tensions fester. During team meetings, managers reminded staff to ask questions calmly and listen openly, just as Barron had done. The initiative proved so successful that other companies in the region began adopting similar practices, crediting the original story for sparking the change. Back home, Sarah Collins remained committed to her personal growth journey, finding new ways to apply the lessons she'd learned. She started hosting a podcast titled Listening Beyond Words, where she interviewed experts on topics like emotional intelligence, communication skills, and self-awareness. Each episode began with a brief retelling of her encounter with Barron, setting the stage for deeper discussions. Listeners praised the show for its practical advice and heartfelt tone, with many saying it helped them navigate challenging relationships in their own lives. For Sarah, the podcast became a way to honor the moment that had changed her perspective forever. For Barron Trump, life carried on quietly, but his actions continued to inspire those around him. Friends occasionally mentioned seeing glimpses of his maturity in everyday interactions. At a family gathering, an uncle recounted how Barron had diffused a tense argument between cousins by simply asking, "Why are you upset?" The question prompted both sides to pause and reflect, leading to a peaceful resolution. Stories like these reinforced the idea that Barron's calm demeanor wasn't reserved for high-pressure situations. It was a natural part of who he was. Thudkey. Story also gained traction in unexpected corners of popular culture. Musicians wrote songs about standing up for oneself with grace, while filmmakers included scenes inspired by Barron and Sarah's exchange in their scripts. One independent movie featured a young protagonist who faced ridicule at school, but found courage by channeling Barron's response. Audiences connected deeply with the character's journey, praising the film for its relatable message. Even fashion designers joined in, printing phrases like "ask why" and "listen first" on t-shirts and tote bags, turning the story's key takeaways into wearable art. Social media platforms remained abuzz with posts celebrating the ongoing impact of the incident. Users shared creative interpretations of its themes, from artwork depicting Barron and Sarah shaking hands to poetry exploring the power of vulnerability. A viral challenge called Pause, Before You React, encouraged participants to record themselves, pausing and reflecting before responding to difficult situations, echoing Barron's measured approach. Thousands joined in, posting videos that ranged from humorous to deeply moving, further amplifying the story's reach. Educators continued to innovate in their efforts to teach the lessons of the story. Some created interactive games designed to help students practice empathy and communication. In one activity, players were given scenarios where they had to respond to misunderstandings without becoming defensive. Others developed lesson plans focused on analyzing real-life examples of accountability, using Barron and Sarah's interaction as a case study. These tools empowered teachers to engage students in meaningful discussions about respect and responsibility. Meanwhile, nonprofits seized the opportunity to promote kindness on a global scale. An organization dedicated to reducing cyberbullying launched a campaign called Think Before You Laugh, urging internet users to consider the impact of their online behavior. They distributed posters, stickers, and digital content featuring quotes from Barron and Sarah, reminding people that laughter can sometimes wound more than words. The campaign gained widespread support, with celebrities and influencers endorsing its message and encouraging followers to join the cause. Families, too, found ways to weave the story into their traditions. Parents incorporated its lessons into bedtime stories, crafting fictional tales where characters resolved conflicts by asking thoughtful questions and offering sincere apologies. Siblings practiced role-playing exercises, taking turns acting out different roles in the press conference scenario. These activities not only strengthened familial bonds but also instilled values of respect and empathy in younger generations. As the years went by, the story's legacy only grew stronger. It became a staple in leadership training programs, conflict, mediation courses, and diversity workshops. Speakers at conferences referenced Barron and Sarah's interaction to illustrate the importance of humility and mutual understanding. Authors included it in books about personal development, emphasizing how even small acts of courage can spark monumental change. Its universality made it timeless, a reminder that humanity thrives when we choose connection over division. For those who had lived through the moment firsthand, the memory remained vivid. Reporters who had attended the press conference still recounted the event with awe, marveling at how Barron's quiet confidence had silenced the room. Colleagues of Sarah's spoke fondly of her transformation, noting how she had become a beacon of integrity in their field. And members of the Trump family expressed gratitude for the positive impact the story had created, viewing it as proof that compassion transcends politics. Though Barron himself never sought recognition for his role in the incident, his actions spoke louder than any accolade ever could. He demonstrated that courage doesn't always look like grand gestures. It can be as simple as asking a question or staying calm under pressure. Similarly, Sarah's willingness to apologize showed that accountability isn't a sign of weakness, but a testament to one's ability to grow. Together, they reminded the world that even in moments of tension, there is always room for understanding and grace. The story of Barron Trump and Sarah Collins ultimately became more than just a tale of a laugh and an apology. It became a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of empathy, accountability, and human connection. As people across the globe continued to draw inspiration from it, the ripple effects of that single moment proved that kindness has no boundaries. And in a world often divided by differences, it served as a gentle reminder that we are all capable of bridging gaps, one conversation at a time. Years after the press conference that changed everything, the story of Barron Trump and Sarah Collins remained a cornerstone of conversations about empathy, respect, and human connection. It had transcended its origins as a fleeting moment in time to become something timeless, a lesson etched into the collective memory of society. People continued to revisit it not just for nostalgia, but because it offered a blueprint for navigating life's challenges with grace and understanding. In neat classrooms around the world, teachers still use the story as a teaching tool, adapting it to fit modern contexts while preserving its essence. A high school teacher in California shared how she introduced the incident during a unit on conflict resolution. "We watched clips of the press conference and discussed what made Barron's response so powerful," she explained. "Then I asked my students to think about times they felt dismissed or misunderstood, and how they could handle those moments differently." The exercise sparked heartfelt discussions, with students sharing personal stories and reflecting on their own behavior. By the end of the class, many vowed to adopt Barron's approach of asking questions calmly instead of reacting impulsively. The ripple effects extended far beyond education. In workplaces, leaders who once struggled with fostering open communication found inspiration in the story. One manager at a tech startup recalled how his team transformed after he encouraged them to embrace the principles of active listening and accountability. "I told my employees, let's be like Barron and Sarah," he said. "If someone says something you don't agree with, ask why before jumping to conclusions." Over time, the office culture shifted dramatically. Meetings became more collaborative, conflicts were resolved faster, and trust flourished among colleagues. For this manager, the story was proof that small changes could lead to big results. Sarah Collins, too, had built a legacy rooted in the lessons she'd learned from her encounter with Barron. Her podcast, Listening Beyond Words, had grown into a global platform, reaching millions of listeners eager to improve their relationships and communication skills. Each episode featured interviews with experts, authors, and everyday people who had turned moments of tension into opportunities for growth. Sarah often began by recounting her apology to Barron, framing it as a turning point in her life. "That day taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength," she would say. "And when we acknowledge our mistakes, we create space for healing." For Barron Trump, life moved forward quietly, yet his influence lingered in subtle ways. Friends and acquaintances occasionally mentioned seeing glimpses of his maturity. In unexpected places, a thoughtful comment here, a kind gesture there. Though he avoided public attention, those close to him noted how proud he was of the positive impact his actions had created. His family sometimes referenced the story during interviews, expressing gratitude for the way it had resonated with so many people. To them, it was a reminder that even the smallest acts of courage can leave an indelible mark. The story also inspired creative works across various mediums, ensuring its message reached new audiences. Filmmakers produced documentaries exploring themes of accountability and empathy, using Barron and Sarah's interaction as a central narrative thread. One such film followed several individuals who had applied the story's lessons in their own lives, showcasing how it had helped them overcome personal struggles. Viewers praised the documentary for its authenticity, saying it reminded them of their capacity to grow and connect with others. Writers, too, drew inspiration from the incident. Novels and short stories emerged featuring characters who faced difficult situations with the same calmness and integrity Barron had shown. These fictional tales resonated deeply with readers, offering relatable portrayals of human resilience and compassion. Critics hailed the works as timely reminders of the importance of treating others with dignity, regardless of age, status, or background. Social media played a crucial role in keeping the story alive, with users continuing to share posts celebrating its enduring relevance. Hashtags like #AskWhy and #ListenFirst trended periodically, sparking fresh waves of engagement. People posted videos of themselves practicing active listening, photos of kindness walls they'd created in their communities, and essays reflecting on how the story had shaped their perspectives. Even memes based on the incident popped up, blending humor with heartfelt messages about respect and understanding. Nonprofits seized every opportunity to amplify the story's core values. Organizations dedicated to anti-bullying initiatives incorporated its lessons into campaigns aimed at fostering inclusivity and empathy. One campaign, titled "Pause Before You React," encouraged participants to reflect before responding to challenging situations. Schools, businesses, and community groups adopted the initiative, hosting workshops and events to promote mindfulness and mutual respect. The campaign's success underscored the universal appeal of the story's message. Families embraced the narrative as a way to teach younger generations the importance of standing up for themselves and others. Parents used bedtime stories and role-playing exercises to reinforce its lessons, helping children develop confidence and emotional intelligence. Siblings practiced resolving disagreements by modeling Barron's measured tone and Sarah's willingness to apologize. These activities strengthened familial bonds while instilling lifelong values of empathy and accountability. As the years passed, the story's legacy only deepened. It became a staple in leadership training programs, conflict mediation courses, and diversity workshops. Speakers at conferences referenced Barron and Sarah's interaction to illustrate the transformative power of humility and understanding. Authors included it in books about personal development, emphasizing how even small acts of courage can spark monumental change. Its universality made it timeless, a reminder that humanity thrives when we choose connection over division. For those who had witnessed the press conference firsthand, the memory never faded. Reporters who had been present still recounted the event with awe, marveling at how Barron's quiet confidence had silenced the room. Colleagues of Sarah's spoke fondly of her transformation, noting how she had become a beacon of integrity in their field. And members of the Trump family expressed gratitude for the positive impact the story had created, viewing it as proof that compassion transcends politics. Though Barron himself never sought recognition for his role in the incident, his actions spoke louder than any accolade ever could. He demonstrated that courage doesn't always look like grand gestures. It can be as simple as asking a question or staying calm under pressure. Similarly, Sarah's willingness to apologize showed that accountability isn't a sign of weakness, but a testament to one's ability to grow. Together, they reminded the world that even in moments of tension, there is always room for understanding and grace. Ultimately, the story of Barron Trump and Sarah Collins became more than just a tale of a laugh and an apology. It became a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of empathy, accountability, and human connection. As people across the globe continued to draw inspiration from it, the ripple effects of that single moment proved that kindness has no boundaries. And in a world often divided by differences, it served as a gentle reminder that we are all capable of bridging gaps, one conversation at a time. Through laughter and reflection, Through awkward silences and heartfelt apologies, the story endured, not as a relic of the past, but as a living, breathing example of what it means to truly listen, learn, and grow together.